Hey everybody, this is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm revisiting 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I used to use this with my students back when the game was in its early stages. And after the Essentials line was published, I did have a chance to play some of the Essentials version online. Play by post. But I would like to revisit 4th edition today and do a little bit of solo dungeon crawling. You know, 4th edition, some people really enjoyed it and some people didn't. And certainly it feels different from the old school Dungeons & Dragons that I grew up with and that I'm still a big fan of. However, I did read online somebody asked, why do you think I'll like 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons? And it was, I think, somewhat recent of a question. And then the other person said, well, if you like exploring dungeons and tactical combat and getting treasure, then you probably might like 4th edition. But if you want more role play and intrigue and a big story, then you might enjoy one of the other editions like 5th edition. And so when I heard exploring dungeons, tactical battles against monsters, and collecting treasure and loot, I mean, yay, sign me up. I love dungeon crawls. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is I'm going to be using the old Wrath of Ashardalon board game to help me play through some solo 4th edition Essentials Dungeons & Dragons. And I'm going to be, when I started my YouTube channel years ago, I did one of the first playthroughs the first playthrough I did was playing Vistra, the dwarf fighter, through this solo adventure. And she didn't make it, but that was well over 10 years ago now. And I thought I would in some ways take Vistra's sister through the same adventure. And instead of doing it purely by herself, I thought I would bring along with her a companion character. A companion character is basically taking the statistics from a creature monster in the in one of the monster manuals. In this case, I'll be pulling his statistics from the Monster Vault. This is the Nintir Vale, threats to the Nintir Vale. And I'm going to be using the statistics for the Lowtown Urchin, which is a small humanoid halfling. It's kind of a rogue-like character. And he's, not a fully developed character, but he's got enough statistics here fleshed out that he can be a companion character to Vistra. So he's not the main adventurer here. He is a support character, kind of a sidekick to not Vistra, but what would I say? Vistra's sister. Let's quickly take a look at her character. So this is a pre-generated character put out by the gaming company Wizards of the Coast years ago. The name is Eldith. Using the Essentials books, we have a fighter, but it's called a slayer. So it's a simple fighter design that enjoys using, I believe, two-handed weapons especially. And so there we see her statistics. And then scrolling down, we see the melee basic attack, ranged basic attack with a javelin. Poised assault is one of the stances. Berserker's charge and power strike. And a couple of other abilities, I think, based on being a dwarf. Well, I'm setting this up using the components from the board game, and also I've set up here with some components from the Warhammer Fantasy set that I also own a skill challenge. And this would be considered a complexity 2 skill challenge, meaning that our party will need to pass 6 successes before they achieve 3 failures. And what are they trying to do? Well, we're just going to get our story idea right out of the book for the board game. And this is a Adventure 1, A Day in the Life of a Hero. It says that while chasing monsters through the wilderness around Firestorm Peak, you fall through a hole into the caverns below. Can you survive long enough to find your way out? Well, that's what our skill challenge is can we survive long enough to find the exit? So we're going to be wandering through the caves after we have collapsed into this, or after the ground collapsed and we fell into this hole. We're going to try to escape and find our way out. And as we encounter or as we suffer failures, I'll be drawing either from the monster deck or the encounter card deck to get us an idea of what we might be running into. And then hopefully if we pass a number of checks to get out of here successfully, we can find our way to the exit tile. So let's play for a while and see what happens. Well, skill challenges I've sort of discovered are run differently by different people. I think we had some good guidelines in the books, and I think it even kind of changed from book to book with different suggestions as the process behind it evolved and was more and more play tested. But I still think in the end, most people ran skill challenges the way that they liked, or they threw them out altogether if they just didn't enjoy that part of the system. But playing here solo, this is great because it gives me some structure and I'm not just sitting here role-playing with myself. So I get to have some sort of game to play and something to work against with visible successes and failures, and can then get creative with what the advantages or consequences, negative consequences may be. So we're going with the complexity 2. We're looking for 6 successes. 5 of these should be moderate, and 1 of these rolls should be difficult. Well, let's imagine that there was a kind of a cool, misty rain above ground as our adventurers were traveling and trying to run off some creatures that had been attacking the village. And the ground being moist collapsed beneath them, and they fell into one of the caves in the dungeons of Firestorm Peak, the cave network. And as they get up off of the ground, they feel an extreme temperature difference. It's actually quite hot and humid down here. And so perhaps the differences in temperature led to perhaps some weakening of the cave ceiling, and just caused them to fall in. And due to the moisture and all, there doesn't seem to be a visible way for them to just crawl directly back out. It's too much of a tumble that they took to get down in here. So they're going to have to find an exit some other way, and that's where we will begin our skill challenge. Well, let's imagine that as our party members fell into the cave network, that some debris and rubble also fell and landed all around them, and fortunately didn't crush them. So what they've got to do is find a way to crawl out. And we'll start with our dwarf fighter here. What's her name? Eldith. We'll say she's Vistra's sister. She's going to attempt to use the skill athletics to climb out of here. And A failure might represent that it's taken them a long time to get out of this predicament they're in, and so they may be wasting time and more likely to run into a wandering monster or something like that. So let's take a look here on the difficulty class by level. We can see here that we're kind of shooting for a moderate level 1 DC of 12. She does happen to be trained in athletics, so let's give it a roll and see how she does. She's got a 19, so even without needing to check her character sheet, we know that that's a success. So she manages to climb out of the hole pretty quickly and pretty easily, even with all of her heavy armor and gear. And we'll go up to the tracker here, and we'll track our first success using this little hourglass marker. So that's one success on the skill challenge, one step closer to getting out of here. So where Eldith kind of took the direct route and just climbed, Upright was in front of her, ignoring all the mud and everything that's getting on her clothes. Our urchin here, we'll just call him Urchin, our little halfling rogue guy, is going to try to step on and kind of run up and bounce his way on the different rocks and debris and see if he can just sort of nimbly step his way out of the debris all around him. So he's going to attempt to use acrobatics for this, and we're also going to allow him to attempt. For this check, I would say this might be pretty hard to do. So why don't we go ahead and make this one a hard DC. So he is trained in acrobatics. He's got a +8 to his roll. But he's going to need to get a hard DC. That's going to be up to a 19. So this is not going to be so easy. And he got a 5. And so as he's attempting to jump up and skip along the different rocks and debris, perhaps some old beams have broken, he takes a wrong step, and although it's not a huge pile of debris that is as large as a mountain or anything, but there's enough of a pile of rocks that he slips and slides down, causing a bunch of rocks to fall down with him, and he makes a bit of a racket here. Not quite, what was his name that dropped the stone in the well in the mines of Moria? It's not quite that loud, but anyway, he makes quite a ruckus here. He does get out, but we suffer our first failure, so we may have attracted some unwanted attention. All right, so with our first failure, and most likely with making noise in such a manner, it's probably going to attract a wandering monster. So I'm going to base the encounter on whatever I draw from here. And this can either be something we can handle or something we're going to need to run away from as quickly as possible. Now, if you just heard my phone say Crom, that's my messenger letting me know that I got a message. Okay, so not an emergency. Let's see what we encounter. We've drawn, this is straight from the board game, we've drawn a snake. So this is a poisonous snake that is roaming the caves. All right, so we've got our snake miniature here. We'll put out a tile, and we'll say that a large snake is approaching. So in Essentials, we're going by those books only right now. Let's take a look in the Monster Vault and see what kind of snake this could be. All right, here we go. We have a minion here. It's level 5, though. That's actually 4 levels higher than our characters, which is rarely recommended. I think taking monsters that are up to 3 levels lower or 3 level higher is usually the range you're looking for. So this is a little bit higher, but it is a minion. So there we see its statistics. Let's see what happens. So just imagining as we start this encounter, why don't we have the rogue here, he'll be prone, somewhat at a disadvantage due to his failed acrobatics check. And let's roll for initiative. Well, let's have our dwarf be the white die, our rogue be the red one, and the snake will be the black die. And let's see what we've got. It looks like, let me double check the initiative scores. Well, straight by the numbers, the snake has a high initiative, and so its total is going to be a 20. And our dwarf fighter will also be a 20. So being tied, I guess I'll just look at the dexterity scores, and the snake is higher. So it will actually act first. Our rogue, who's actually pretty fast, just didn't roll well enough and will be third. Well, seeing Eldith on her feet, wielding a large weapon, the snake, we'll just say, sees her as the immediate threat and attempts to use Blinding Spittle. This is a poisonous range attack, +8 versus reflex. So the attack roll, +8 versus reflex, let me roll that again, is a 9. So we have a 17. And the reflex we're looking for, reflex is only a 13 for our character. So Eldith is blinded by this cobra spittle, and not only that, it does 6 poison damage, and she's going to need to make saving throws in the future. So I can't remember if I said poisoned. It's actually blinded. This spittle will blind. And to kind of help us remember that, I'm going to put this little chip. This is something I bought to play with my students years and years ago. I'm going to put that little marker under her figure just to help me remember that she can't see. Completing its standard action, its attack, it will then use its move to advance a space and come within melee range attack on our dwarf. Well, Eldith is trying to wipe this poison out of her eye, or her eyes, and she will attempt to use her weapon. And I will double check and make sure what that is. It is a great axe. So she's armed with a great axe, even though her figure has a hammer. And she will attempt an attack, and she's at a significant disadvantage here. Blinded means that the snake has total concealment, so she's going to get a -5 on her attack roll. The Spitting Cobra's armor class is 21. Eldith has a +7 with her attack. She's going to assume as a minor action her poised assault. So she's going to try to make this as accurate an attack as she can. She's going to get +1 to her attack. So that's going to total a -4 for her on her attack roll. Let's see how she can do. That's a 3. So didn't work. She can barely see. She brings down her axe and manages to just clang off the corner of this wall right beside her. Well, our halfling rogue here spends an action to get up on his feet. And then looking at his statistics here, he's got something called a Cloak of Filth. And it's an at-will move action. And it says that he can shift up to 3 squares and gains partial concealment until the end of his next turn. So let's just say he shifts back, sort of hiding among the rubble and debris from the cave-in, and gets some cover against this spitting cobra. All right, we're heading into a new round, and the snake has a recharge. This is a 4, 5, or 6. This happens at the beginning of its turn. So let's take a red, or what was it, black. We were using black. Let's take this black D6, and let's try to roll it in our tray here. And we got a 1, so the spittle is not available to use again, not quite yet. So it can't take that action this round. Well, I'll say that the snake makes its move action, slithers around the corner here, and gets right at Vistra and attempts a bite attack. And this will be plus 10 versus armor class. And it rolled a 10, so that's going to be a total of 20. I'm sure that's going to hit. Yeah, her armor class is 17. So with another hit, 6 poison damage, and Eldith is marked by the snake. Alright, I think Eldith is in trouble here. All she needs to do is hit this thing one time, and it will be cut in half. But hitting this thing is the problem. It is very fast. It's a 5th level minion. So we're trying to hit an armor class of 21. And it still has the equivalent of total concealment. So it's getting a plus 5 to its defenses. With her poised assault, she's going to attempt again to hit this thing. So instead of plus 7 to her roll, it's going to be, what did we say, plus 3 to her roll, I think. And that's not good enough. I rolled the wrong die. I'm going to roll the white die for her, see if we get something different. All right, 15. That's going to be an 18. It's still not good enough. With her move action, she's just going to stagger back another step, basically shifting 1 space. Well, she's in trouble. So it's the urchin's turn, our little halfling rogue. Let's see if he can swoop in and save the day. All right, here's a little metagaming, which is quite common when you're doing tactical combat like this. As Eldith is about to step back, her sidekick here says, no, keep him busy. So let's say that she decides to hold her position. So the reason I'm doing this is to try to take advantage of something uniquely related to the Lowtown Urchin, which is River Rat Tactics. He gets combat advantage against any enemy that is adjacent to at least one of his allies. Combat advantage in this edition doesn't mean rolling the d20 2 times. It gives you a plus 2 to your attack, and if you have certain abilities like maybe a sneak attack or something like that, you can get the damage boost. So the street urchin will use his move action to kind of move diagonally 1 and then straight up behind. Normally this would be a flanking maneuver and give him, well, I wonder if that would stack here. It would give him basically another bonus here, a flanking bonus. But being blinded, Eldith can't grant that to him. So, combat advantage, he's already going to get that when an ally is adjacent, so I don't think he can receive double the combat advantage from flanking. So I think it's just that he can get that advantage even if they're not on opposite sides. That's how I'm reading it. Let me know if you know better than that. Like I said, I'm sort of re-entering and trying to look into again about how to play D&D 4th edition. It's been a while for me. So he's going to attempt his attack here, and with his dagger he gets +6 versus armor class. This will be an additional +2, so +8 total. He's still got to roll really well to hit. He's going to be using the red die. Gets a 12. Oh my gosh, that's a 20. I think he missed by 1. So that's it. He missed his attack. Couldn't quite time it correctly. And the snake is still there, sort of trapped between our two heroes. So as we go to the top of the round, the snake will have a chance to recharge. Roll this in it's got a 1, so it does not recharge its spittle attack. But right now it definitely has our hardest hitter at a great disadvantage with the poison in her eyes. So the snake will decide again to focus fire on its weakened target, and it will take another bite at Eldith and rolls a 9. Well, at +10, that's still a 19. Very much a hit here, because I think she is granting combat advantage to the snake by being blinded. So it would get an additional +2 on its attack against her. So she's hit for another 6 damage and marked. So I was trying to remember how marked worked in the Essentials line. If it was, can't remember if there was any difference. I thought there was something about moving or shifting, but basically it's just if the target of your mark attacks another target other than you, you get -2 to your attack. It is occupying so much of your attention. It's up in your face and demanding that you deal with it first, that you're going to get a -2 to attack anyone else. So right now that is not a problem, since it's the only creature on the board. So the marking is not really that important right now, but certainly the blinded condition yeah, that's the main thing. So this creature still has a move action available to it. In 4th edition, you're allowed to take a move action, a standard action, which is usually like an attack, and then a minor action, which some powers or abilities allow you to do that. As its move action, normally I'm kind of playing it out here that this area is where they fell into the hole, and that it is considered difficult terrain. That's what they had to climb out of. So normally, that's why Vistra is moving, not Vistra, but Eldith is moving in a straight line back. I didn't have her, she wouldn't normally be able to shift into difficult terrain. The snake, however, has a climb speed, and I believe it should be able to move and climb without needing to make any kind of check of any kind. So I think it can actually move through this terrain without too much cover. So I'm going to actually allow it to crawl over this way and basically allowing it to shift 1 over. and get into a position here so that it's not sandwiched between the two heroes. All right, we're at the top of the turn for our heroes. The snake has just acted. Eldith, for her standard action, she's going to aid an ally's attack. She's going to attempt to put out her axe handle in front of her and see if she can get this snake to attempt to bite at her. See if she can stop its mouth with the axe handle, or perhaps press the axe up against the snake's body to hold him in position so that the ally can get a boost to his next attack roll. So by taking that action, our rogue, our urchin here, is going to get +2 to his next attack. So she's not going to move. She's going to stay where she is. She'll be allowed a saving throw. Just need to get a 10 or higher. We got a 4. We're rolling awful. She is still blinded. But she's announced what she's doing. We're going to move in now with the halfling with the dagger. He will attempt an attack now. He's got combat advantage due to, rat pack tactics. An ally is adjacent to his target. And aid another. So he's going to get +4 on his attack roll. Boy, I hope he can do it this time. That's not good enough. That's a 15. Well, that is disappointing, but that's what can happen. I believe we can do what's called an action point. And I believe companion characters could also make use of an action point. At least I'm going to house rule for myself here that we can. So spending an action point, you're allowed to take another action. So he's going to spend that and take an additional attack right here and now. And we rolled a 14. Plus his normal 6 is 20. Plus the additional 2 + 2, that's enough. He manages to stab his little dagger up through the mouth and brain of the snake, killing it. So I think we've done it. We've managed to stab the snake for 1 point of damage. That's enough to kill it since it is a minion. You could see definitely there how dangerous even a minion was against our two-person party due to the level differences. It was very hard to hit this thing. But with a little bit of teamwork, we were able to pull it off. We're going to continue in a future video the skill challenge and attempting to escape from these network of caves. And I hope I handled the rules correctly for the 4th edition combat there. So let me know in the comments if you saw any mistakes or if you have any advice for a way that it could have been played better. So thanks for watching, everybody. More to come.